Quick. So the answer number 1 is 3, and the answer number 2 is 120. Let's move on. All right, so here's some vocabulary for you. We're going to be using these words a lot as we talk about probability. All right, sample space. That is the total number of ways something could happen. All right, so if I say we're going to a donut shop and I'm going to buy one donut, what kind of donut am I going to buy? And they have 20. Well, the sample space is there's 20 possibilities for that because there's 20 I can pick from, right? Now, an event is one, it's a subset. A subset means it's like a smaller group inside of that total. All right? The event is a subset of that sample space. So let's say they had 3 different kinds of jelly-filled donuts. They had lemon, they had raspberry, and vanilla. Okay? Now, how many different ways can the event occur? 3. Now, why is this important in probability? Well, you make a ratio or a fraction out of the event in the sample space. Okay? So if I say, what's the probability I'm going to pick a jelly-filled donut, it would be 3 out of 20. The event out of the sample space. Okay? So let's go ahead and move on to some example problems here. Go ahead and find this slide on your notes I printed. And make sure you guys write this in with me. All right. All right, so here's our situation, example 3. It says you throw a single, that means one dice, 6-sided dice. Okay? Now, we talked about this a little bit last time, but we need to spend a little more time on it now. What does specify the sample space mean? That means, specify, you could think of that meaning list. The sample space is all possible outcomes. So this phrase, specify the sample space, means really in English can be said list all the possibilities. So if I roll a dice, what are my outcomes? I could roll a
6, a 5, a 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's just a list. That's all it is. So if we go back to that donut example and I said specify the sample space, you just have to name for me all the different types of donuts in that shop. Now, another question that might be asked is not specify, not list all the possibilities, but another question could be, what's the size of the sample space? That means how many items are in the list. So how many items are in this list? There's 6. That's the size. And if you want to write this off to the side here, so it's in English for you. Let me rephrase that. Good. How many outcomes are possible? Or how many items are in your list? Okay, here we go. Part C. Specify the event. Specify means what? Okay, so we're going to list the event. What's an event? It's a type of possibility. Which one is it? It's a smaller group inside the whole. So we're going to list the event in which the number rolled is even. So let's make a list of all the possible even outcomes. What are they? 2, 4, 6. Okay, I'm recording. All right, part D. What is the size of the event of rolling an even number? The size of rolling, in other words, let's rephrase it. How many outcomes are possible for that event? There's 3 outcomes, 2, 4, and 6. So there you go. So now I can ask you a probability question pretty soon. I can say, what's the probability of rolling an even number? And you're going to say 3 out of 6. Okay? So that's why it's important to know what a sample space is and what an event is, so you know what numbers to make the fraction out of. All right? Okay, now example 4 is not something I'm going to be demanding from you today, okay? But it's a taste of what's coming up next time. And in fact, it's a little bit more difficult than what's coming up next time. But I just want you guys to see what this is all about. Example 4 is a problem where you can't just count it by hand like we have been so far. You have to use those counting rules we've been talking about to figure out how big is your event and then how big is the total possibilities. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. All right, a coach has a team consisting of 10 kids and 5 JV kids. For the upcoming competition, he's allowed to pick 3 varsity members and 2 JV kids. Specify the size of the sample space. How many different possible outcomes are there? All right? So, here we go. I have a total of how many kids, varsity kids?
10.
And a total of how many?
JV.
Yep. Right. And I'm going to be picking from the varsity kids
3 players.
3 players, and I'm going to be picking from the JV kids 2. Now, we're going to figure these outcomes separately, okay? Because they're separate things. You have a varsity and JV, so you can't really like do the multiplication of those things together yet. So let's go ahead and do this. Now I'm looking at how many ways I could take 3 kids out of 10. So let's go through our questions. How many times does this coach have to make a choice? 3 times. How many options does he have for the first choice?
10.
Second choice?
And then 8.
And then we move on to our third question, which I'm not sure if you guys remember, so let's revamp our minds a little bit. The third question was what? No, this is, I'm talking about the questions from like a few lessons ago. The third question is this: does the order matter?
No.
So do I need to divide out the order?
No.
If the order doesn't matter, you need to divide it out. So how many ways can you arrange 3 kids?
3, 2, 1.
It's just a group of kids. The order doesn't matter. So there's 120 ways he could pick 3 out of 10 varsity kids. Now we're going to do the same thing for the JV. Why don't you guys go ahead and do that for me? I'll wait for you for a second. Thank you. So this is how you find out the total number of ways you could pick 2 out of 5 JV kids, which is going to give me 10. So now let me ask you this. Here's an important question now. Are these events mutually exclusive, the 120 and the 10? Is the coach having to pick varsity or JV, or is he picking varsity and JV? So what do we do if it's and? You would multiply them. So there are 1,200 ways he could do that. Now this is a very advanced problem, so don't feel nervous. You didn't quite 100% understand it, but that's the gist of it, okay? So let's go ahead and have you guys take a look at a few. Yours won't be that challenging yet. Okay, but what I really want you guys to glean from this is specify the sample space means make a list. What's the size means find out how many outcomes are possible. And I'd also like you guys to understand what's the difference between an event and a sample space. That's the big picture here. Number 4, just to kind of get your brains turning. All right, go for it. Here's 2 for you guys to do. So here's our answers for 1A through C and 2.